Cleopatra movies that were made, which are destroyed, most of them now, but the number of Life of Buddha movies, like the way in which certain of these mythologies were just magnetic and kept being approached over and over again was interesting to me. So my current work that is happening slowly is it's a large suite of prints that's connected to a science fiction story called Sultana's Dream, which was written in 1905 by a woman called Rukia Hussein, and was written right before, like 10 years before Charlotte Perkins Gilman's Herland. And they were written separately, but they were both these kind of utopia fantasies that were about feminist inversion. So Sultana, who the story starts by, she says, I was lying in my chair one night and pondering the condition of women when suddenly this thing happened, and then she gets sort of swept into this world where there are no men, or where are the men, and this is kind of the story. So this was inspired a lot by my own interest in German expressionist printmaking and works at that time. It was inspired in particular by a wordless story called The City, which was written in 1925 by the Flemish artist Frans Massereel. And so formally, one thing that was interesting to me about this and about these images was that I was starting to notice, and I was starting to make also, I was starting to notice a prevalence of single figure images against a white background as a way of doing portraiture in contemporary art. And I just thought about, why is the figure always isolated? And how is that connected to our culture of individualism? And I didn't really think about it too much, and then I was talking to some friends who were working in theater, and they were saying, yeah, it's actually really hard to get like naturalistic multi-actor productions funded these days because of some of these similar ideas. So I wanted to figure out how to explore both the subjectivity as well as the context, and I thought that the form of printmaking is really interesting because it also requires a graphic balance that's similar to the conceptual balance. So these are images from that. So part of my interest in Sultana's Dream came from some research that I did when I was in Dhaka. This is the War Liberation Museum that I visited there. And this is the author who wrote the story. She was, and another interesting thing about the story was she wrote it in an afternoon in English. So people are always like, oh, how is it translated? And how is she able to write? And it's like, no, actually, she just wrote it in English. So here's a couple of other, and I'll end with there's just a couple of other images of this work that I'll show. So this is the moment where she enters the city, and the city is called Ladyland. And then there's a whole question about what happened to the men and where are they. So part of what was really fun about this work was the archival research that I was able to do. So this is a paper clipping from the first Hindu woman who was a brilliant student, which was in the turn of the 20th century. So probably like 1893 to 1910 was when people started to come over. And thinking, and as I was working on this project, it's a very encyclopedic. I was thinking a lot about these. So this is in 1885. There is a Syrian woman, a Japanese woman, and then Anandabai Joshi, and they all graduated from medical school in Pennsylvania at that time. So I was thinking about how history is moving or regressing and how it's repeating itself. And this is an image from a student publication of the Gadar Party that was done in the think it was in the 30s, 40s, and then I was also at that time that I was making these prints thinking about the executive order against immigration that was signed in January, and thinking about how exactly 100 years before this, the Asian Exclusion Act was signed, sealed, and delivered, like in January of 1917. And just thinking about the relationship between future and past. So I'm going to stop there because we're at 41 minutes and 9 seconds, and then I can talk to Pratibha. Oh, so this is where the men are. The men are in the zanana. So they all got locked up and they get put in the zanana, which is called a mardana. Mard means male. So. Well, thank you so much for your attention.